Got you there, didn't I? And welcome everyone to episode 122 of the most must-see show to ever hit the Bedford TV airwaves, or any airwaves for that matter, the Wrestling Connection. I'm your host, as always, your connection to the wrestling world, the adorable Fedora Felon, Mr. Ken Hill, at your service, delivering all the news to you in professional wrestling today. Accompanying me is, of course, Mr. Nicholas.
Hi, Ken.
The WK Big Four pay-per-view champion, the lovely Miss Julie and Trajan, and of course,
I'm last nameless.
Off screen, behind camera, wherever he may be, the infamous production director, Mr. Greg Dolan.
You're missing someone, Ken. You're missing Maria.
Maria?
Our lovely, lovely intern. Say hi, Maria.
Hi.
There you go.
Hello, and welcome, Maria, to the rambunctious WK Krew.
That's a great word, Ken. I like it.
Rambunctious?
Yes.
Well, for us, that's an
Describes the show really well. Humph.
All right. So
Back to wrestling.
Back to the news. All right. So we're a few weeks away from Battleground. Of course, there's so much being stirred up. There's so much controversy going on right now. What with the draft? What with the WWE Draft? Historical WWE Draft coming up. Roman Reigns currently serving suspension, yet still in line for a title shot in the triple threat main event at WWE Background next month. There is a lot to go over, a lot to discuss, starting with the Raw review. Now, we kick things off with the WWE World Champion, or interestingly referred to as just WWE Champion, possibly in lieu of the upcoming draft, the WWE Champion Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, who were in a heavy discussion over their former Shield mate Roman Reigns and his suspension. Now, this comes as an interesting note, as often, pretty much all the time, when a WWE superstar is suspended, they are persona non grata to WWE. No mention of them is made in social media, and nothing is said of them in storyline, on the air, or even off the air. So it's the fact that they're keeping Roman Reigns in the loop here, going into, and not as well as keeping him in the match at all for WWE Battleground, kind of begs the question what Roman's role is ultimately going to be in this, and maybe if there's more to his suspension than we previously thought. That being said, of course, we had discussion about Ambrose arguing that Roman made a mistake, that he paid for it, he's serving his time, and that he shouldn't be taken out of the match. Rollins said, okay, but on the other hand, he legitimately screwed up. He needs to pay the toll. He needs to pay the penalty, and Rollins was on the side that insisted he be taken out of the match. Now, this is reflective of the argument that's not been going on not only in WWE but with its fan base about where Roman's role should be following the end of his suspension on the 21st, and of course the WWE Battleground pay-per-view being on the 24th. Now, this would all lead to, surprisingly, AJ Styles coming out, followed by John Cena, both arguing that maybe they want to throw their hat into the ring since Ambrose is welcoming all challengers to his championship, and Stephanie McMahon coming out with Shane McMahon once again on vacation. Boo! Yeah, we were booing you, Stephanie, not the fact that Shane's not here.
Oh, the drama, Ken.
Ooh, the drama. Yeah, save the drama for your mama. All right, so anyway, Stephanie made a couple of blockbuster matches, the one being Seth Rollins versus John Cena, and the other being a non-title match with AJ Styles taking on Dean Ambrose. If either AJ or John won their respective match, they would be inserted into the WWE Championship match at WWE Battleground. So we could have go from seeing a fatal four-way to a fatal five-way, possibly. But before we get on to those matches, we also have a lot of Raw to cover. We first come to the ongoing, what's becoming a more personal rivalry between Titus O'Neil and the United States champion Rusev. Now, Rusev made some inflammatory remarks about Titus's family, particularly his children. Titus took great offense to that last week, beating Rusev in and around in the ring and around the arena, sending the U.S. champ into retreat. Now, these two would have a traditional one-on-one non-title match where Titus was more focused on really getting his revenge on Rusev rather than trying to make a statement towards being a challenger for the U.S. title. The problem with this being was that the match ended in a countout, which kind of begs the question, okay, did this really justify, does this really fulfill the revenge that Titus was looking for? Because you'd think that maybe Titus would beat down Rusev to the point where he got disqualified, or that he would beat him down so bad that he actually managed to upset Rusev and get a rare pinfall victory over the Bulgarian Brute. Really, a countout doesn't really it just kind of leaves things open-ended. It gives Titus an in for a U.S. title shot since he beat Rusev, but I don't think it was really the kind of victory we were expecting here, given you pretty much got like two hosses here going at each other. A countout victory doesn't really work in that sense. But regardless, Titus did get a countout victory, which can most likely mean we see a U.S. title shot in his future, possibly at WWE Battleground. Now, continuing on from there. We had the not so triumphant return of the Intercontinental Champion, The Miz, along with his lovely wife, Maurice, both coming back from the filming of Miz's latest film, The Marine 5. Or in case I like to call it, The Marine 5, God, when will it end? All right, so anyway, Kane, who had still been lobbying to run SmackDown, brought up an interesting point that The Miz had been gone far too long and that he had not defended his championship within the 30 days. So Kane proposed a open challenge type match for Miz's Intercontinental Championship. Stephanie accepted, and of course we'd find out that Miz's challenger ended up being, well, Kane. Well, Demon Kane in this case. That being said, though, I felt like that this could have been they could have done more of this. I mean, Kane ended up winning by countout, but I mean, this does nothing for Miz. I mean, Miz actually been having a really good run with the Intercontinental title, and it's up until he took his time off for the Marine, and it kind of feels like that, I mean, they're trying to kind of reboot the run here. They're trying to kind of reignite it, and so to speak, with Kane involved. But Kane is not the opponent I would have picked. I mean, you could have gone with a number of opponents. You could have gone with Cesaro, who's not really doing anything. You could have had maybe like a returning Neville. You could even picked a returning Randy Orton just for kicks. But as it is, this really doesn't do any favors for Miz returning, as he was actually building up a lot of credibility before his leave of absence as Intercontinental Champion. All right, so switching gears here, we come to another interesting little feud involving champions with the tag team champions New Day, fast approaching the WWE tag team title holding record of Kendrick and London, who decided to take their parody stylings to battle the Wyatt family, as you can see here. Now, an interesting aspect of this feud that WWE hasn't acknowledged, because you know that WWE storytelling is not exactly known for its subtlety. But the interesting thing here is that we've noticed that Xavier Woods has this tendency to fall into this trance around when Bray Wyatt is around. That he seems like that he kind of loses himself, that we have no idea what's going on, and he'll just snap out of it a few seconds later. So there's an interesting little wrinkle going on between the New Day and the Wyatt family. Is this hinting at Xavier possibly joining the Wyatt family? Is Bray Wyatt playing mind games with Xavier, or is Xavier trying to play mind games with Bray Wyatt? We don't know. It hasn't been acknowledged yet, but I think it's an interesting little aspect of their feud, and we'll see where it goes, because it looks more and more like the Wyatts and the New Day are going to be tangling come Battleground in July. All right. So moving on from there, we had another war of words between between longtime friends and even longer time rivals in Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens on the highlight reel. Now, of course, Jericho tried to stir things up between these two. Owens and Zayn really don't need someone to be motivating them. You could really just put these two in the ring by themselves, and they can build up the feud all themselves. You've had about 15 years worth of history and animosity for these two to build on, so you really didn't need Jericho in the mix there. I did kind of like the mutual animosity with Owens and Zayn towards Jericho, trying to intervene, trying to get in on their personal rivalry and trying to make it about himself. And you saw that with the double kick, so to speak, laying out Jericho seen here. There we go. So, I mean, Owens and Zayn may disagree about a lot of things, but when you try intruding on a rivalry that's just been building and building and building and building for years, then really you're just setting yourself up for a big fall, as Jericho himself found out here. Yeah, like I said, I don't think the highlight reel is really a necessary platform for these two. I think they can build the feud up themselves just fine. It was funny to see them work together even for just a split second, then just go back to beating the bejesus out of each other, which is all well and good. Okay, I mean, like I said, these two are the kind of feud that really, as everyone's talked about, could just go on forever. All right, so after that, we come to the women's division with Sasha Banks making more and more noise about being in the women's championship picture going up against Charlotte. Now, we had tag team action here with Sasha and Paige taking on Charlotte and her erstwhile protege, Dana Brooke. Now, Charlotte made best attempts to avoid Sasha at every turn, and of course that meant leaving her protege seemingly high and dry while Sasha tapped out Dana Brooke with the Banks statement. Now, of course, I mean, this has a double meaning as Sasha has been making a huge statement towards competing for the women's championship, which is all well and good because the women's division, ever since the introduction of the women's title, has been growing more and more tedious, more and more stale as they try to come up with a number of reasons to justify keeping the championship on Charlotte, both on screen and off screen. Because the problem being there aren't any worthwhile challenges. You had Natalya with a feud that probably went 2 matches too long. Becky isn't quite in a position to be challenging Charlotte. Now she's embroiled in a personal feud with Natalya. And really, I mean, Paige has not been, I wouldn't say relevant in the women's division, but she really, I mean, she has been making some noise with non-title victories over Charlotte, but isn't being taken seriously as a critical component. And now you have Sasha finally returning, finally bringing that spark back to the women's division that I think it's sorely, sorely needed here. And I mean, we could be looking at a triple threat match with Sasha, Paige, and Charlotte, where we could see Paige take the fall, and maybe that Sasha can lay claim that both times that Charlotte has been in a multi-woman match that she hasn't been able to pin or submit Sasha, which leads to the belief that Charlotte knows she can't beat Sasha in a one-on-one match, which would of course tie into SummerSlam and their ultimate one-on-one match, where we could very well see Sasha come out the women's champion. I mean, but that's just my opinion. That's just my booking. So I certainly hope no one from WWE is watching where they could possibly take that idea for their own. Wink. But anyway, moving on. Moving on, we come to the 2 main event matches. The first of them being Cena versus Rollins. Now, of course, this rivalry goes back to 2014, 2015, where really, just like with Rollins and Ambrose, Rollins and Cena really can't have a quote-unquote bad match. Now, of course, this was kind of more of a best of Rollins and Cena rather than anything new that we could see out of these two. But It was a very good TV match, as it were. Plenty of near falls, plenty of action to be had. The end coming when the club would make their presence known at ringside, which would distract Cena long enough for Rollins to hit the pedigree and get the 3 count to keep Cena out of the WWE title match at Battlegrounds. Now, on the other end, we had Dean Ambrose going up against AJ Styles in a non-title match, where again, if AJ won, he would be inserted into the championship match. Now, this was another great match going on as planned. Again, we had plenty of close calls, particularly with AJ and the calf crusher on Ambrose, only for Cena to make his presence known and distract AJ long enough for Ambrose to hit the dirty deeds, get the pinfall, and keep AJ out of the match, thus keeping the match ultimately a triple threat match with only the Shield members involved. Now, of course, this Raw would not have a happy ending, as Cena would be waylaid by the club and laid out with a magic killer on the ramp, whereas Rollins would surprise Ambrose with a pedigree. Now, I really didn't get... I mean, it would have been nice to see at least either Cena or AJ in this match. That way you could have seen the one who didn't get in interfere, keep the other guy from winning, and then you could see the continuation of their rivalry. As it is, I mean, it was kind of a bad tease to tease both these guys getting into the match and then neither of them winning. I mean, it's basically 50-50 booking. Okay, I mean, you get Cena out of the match. You either have Cena in the match or you have AJ in the match. Instead, you have both out of the match, and it just defeats the whole purpose of the show. I mean, at the top of the hour, I mean, you had fans salivating over the idea of a fatal 4-way or a fatal 5-way match, and you kind of just pull the rug from under them, saying, "Oh no, we're just going to keep it a plain old triple threat match." Oh well. I mean, as it is, it was a good episode of Raw. I mean, Rollins makes a big statement, not only beating John Cena clean, which you can't say all too often in any day and age, and getting a one-up on Ambrose, which will be, and we'll see how that momentum carries into next week's Raw. Now moving on from the Raw review, going into a little dirt sheet dilemma. Now, the dilemma for this week is, of course, the upcoming WWE Draft, which will be taking place on the first live SmackDown on Tuesday nights, on Tuesday, I believe, July 17th. Now, I believe, actually, no, wait a minute. No, July 17th. Oh, no, July 11th, I believe, actually, yes. We'll take the WWE Draft taking place in mid-July. Now, of course, there's been a lot of discussion about what's going on, whether we'll be having one World Championship, whether we'll be having separate World Championships on Raw and SmackDown, whether we'll be having separate Tag Team Champions, whether we'll be having one women's title or two, which secondary title will end up on which show, and most important of all, who will be on what show. I mean, and not to mention the rumor that, the acknowledged rumor that WWE is bringing back a lot of its former superstars, such as John Morrison, Shelton Benjamin, and MVP, even so far as Steven Richards, although he's probably going to play a trainer role. Although it would be interesting to see the right to censor back in this day and age. As it is, I mean, you have to wonder, and not to mention ultimately the influx of NXT talent that WWE will be bringing up to fill out the rosters on either Raw or SmackDown. Now, starting with the women's division. Now, Julie, I pose this question to you. Do you feel like that they would be better off having two women's championships or just one?
Well, first, let me make sure. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I definitely go for two because I think it would be nice for there to be a little bit more balance and have more women in the ring showcasing more women athletes as much as we can. So I go for 2.
Okay, now the second question is, who could you see being on either brand? Now, really, we have Raw kind of as more the showman type brand, where SmackDown is more the quality wrestling brand. Now, which among the women you have, not only on WWE but in NXT, such as Bayley and Asuka and Nia Jax, who could you see being on either show?
Well, can you, just for my sake and for our viewers' sake, just review for me the candidates?
Well, okay. Now, of course, we have the WWE Women's Champion Charlotte. We have Sasha Banks. We have Summer Rae. We have Nikki Bella, who's soon to be returning from injury. She's still in the DL. We have Alicia Fox. We have let's see. We have Becky Lynch. We have Natalya. And down in NXT, we have like I said, Nia Jax. We have Asuka. We have Bayley. So you have a pretty decent roster right there as it is. So the question being is, where would the women's? I mean, okay, you say there should be 2 women's championships. Honestly, I think there should be 1. I mean, I believe like it should be like a universal women's championship that like could be competed for on either show. Because the problem is, you don't. I mean, with all due respect to the female superstars, you don't have a big enough roster to justify a female roster justify 2 women's championships on the show.
That's true. I mean, you talked about Raw being the one for the more exciting superstar talent, and SmackDown
the showman brand.
Yeah,
is what I called it.
Definitely Charlotte, Sasha. I mean, Nikki. You know, she's been around for a long time. People like her on the Divas show as well. Becky Lynch. I mean, those women are more the exciting ones, and I think the NXT is probably just going to stay where they are. I don't think any of them are that exciting or dynamic enough yet to come onto Raw.
Really? You don't think Bayley's exciting?
Well, I think there's so many of them on the on the Raw side already. I think we need to.
That's what I'm
shuffle that
asking.
around.
Who do you think would benefit from being on SmackDown, which highlights more the quality of their matches than just like ultimately just showing off their superstars?
I'm thinking Natalya.
Natalya,
What do you think?
okay. I mean, well, you can't just have one woman on SmackDown. I mean, you have to.
I'd say Alicia.
Okay.
And maybe Becky.
Okay. All right. I mean, that would be a start. But again, you would need to bring up NXT women to flush out either roster. I mean, you can't just have three women on SmackDown. Does not a women's division make?
Correct.
I mean, that's why ultimately you're going to need to have a lot of call-ups from NXT.
Yeah, and from a marketing standpoint, Stephanie wants to co-promote both shows, so that's another reason why she wants to mix it up, and that makes sense.
Right. Okay. So I mean, I actually wanted to have Greg and Nick in here for this next part.
All right, I'll ask Maria to go fetch them. Oh, here they are.
Okay, so
Here comes Greg.
So, gentlemen, we're discussing the draft right now.
NFL?
Well, no, WWE draft.
NBA?
WWE draft.
Okay, so baseball. All right, what do we got, Ken?
All right, so we just finished discussing like the potential for the women's division, where we believe certain women superstars should end up. But now the other discussion comes to, okay, obviously, what would we do for the tag team champions? Would we have the tag team champions compete on both brands? Would we have separate tag team champions like that we did with the initial draft back in 2002? Now, I mean, back then we had more than enough tag teams to justify having 2 separate tag team titles. But is that the case here? I mean, we have the New Day, we have Enzo and Cass, we have the Wyatts, we have the Vaudevillains, the Lucha Dragons, the Dudleys, always a good stalwart in the tag team division. So, I mean, do you feel like that we would be better off having one set of tag team champions, or like separate brands?
I have a total different idea. How about no tag team champions? Just
Greg,
eliminate the tag
Greg,
team
come
division
on.
entirely.
Really?
I mean, there's not a lot.
Then
of good
what's the
ones.
point of having a tag team division? What's the point of having all the
That's
tag
exactly
teams?
my point. You just get rid of them and you split them up and make them go one
Okay,
on one.
but a lot of people.
Mano a mano.
Okay, but there's a reason why a lot of tag teams are tag teams
Why
because
is
they
that?
don't stand out. Okay, so you're honestly asking to split up the Usos? The Usos don't
I mean,
stand
they don't
out.
have much of an identity other than the fact that they're together. So then you let them out to do their own thing, and they
Okay, but the
become-
problem is they've been virtually identified. I mean, cemented as a tag team. You split them up. It
Well, I
makes no
thought you
sense.
were arguing
mean,
for
this-
the tag team division. I mean, it
this is
sounds
what
like
I'm
it's holding
this is
these
what
guys
I'm
back.
talking about. Okay, Vince and WWE have always had this nasty habit of breaking up tag teams when, in the hopes that they can find a breakout star. But the thing is, that doesn't work with every single tag team, and that's why it doesn't make any sense to break a lot of
Well,
these
it worked
teams
out
up.
great when they split up Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty.
Okay,
So maybe
that's
they
the
could do
whole
something like that
point.
again.
That's the whole point, though. Okay, Shawn did end up being a standout guy, which was great, but it doesn't work. Okay, you want an example? 2002 draft, the Dudley Boys. How well did that work out? Okay, let's see. Bubba won the Hardcore Championship a few times. Devon became Reverend Devon, which bombed
At least
badly.
he had a good career backup. If it didn't work, he could open his own ministry.
Oh, okay. Greg, I'm trying to be serious here. Come on.
I got you, Ken. I don't know. I just think it's an when you're doing something as big as a split up like this, a brand split. That's the time to really throw something out there and do something off the page.
I
so if you're
understand
gonna do
that
it, I think this is
ultimately-
the time to eliminate the tag team division entirely.
That doesn't make any sense, though. I mean, tag teams are are a critical aspect of professional wrestling. If you just dissolve the entire tag team division, I mean, there's no standout. There's nothing to make anyone
What
stand
if you
out.
made it so tag teams now have 3 guys?
Okay, but
Because
they
then
also
you have triple the, because then all right, so it works really good for 2 people. Why wouldn't it work great for 3?
okay. So what are you saying, that there should be like a 6-man title?
Yeah, maybe you do a 6-man on one night and a 4 or 2-man on the other. A 2 and a 3
So
tag team and then
so what are you
tag-
saying?
tag
We should
team or
have like a
tag team
6-man
team?
tag team
Tag
title?
team?
Is that what you're saying?
what's that?
Are you saying we should have like a 6-man tag team division?
Yeah, people like those kind of matches.
Well, I'm not saying
it's
it's
like a
not
triple threat sort
bad.
of
I
thing.
mean,
it's almost
6-man
like you develop more stables if you did that.
It would be interesting. I mean, you do have a couple of stables in the Wyatts and the Social Outcasts and the New Day, but ultimately, okay, that goes right back to the whole point of tag teams. I mean, having tag teams go up against stables, having stables go against stables, have tag teams go up against tag teams. You can't really have stables without tag teams.
Yeah, you're probably right. And I will say, the more you talk about it, tag team probably makes sense. Plus, I mean, I'm a big fan of the high five, and that's a huge part of the tag team division. So I think I'm with you now on this one.
Thank you. So
But
glad
who's
we had
gonna be
that
the
fun
Big
little
Show's tag team
runaround.
partner?
Yeah. All right. So that being said, okay. So he's jeez. Is Nick still out there? For goodness sake, please.
We're getting Nick for you.
All right. So, Julie, I mean, okay. So, which tag teams?
Who's looking for me?
Yeah, because I wanted to discuss the tag team title situation, where which secondary titles should be on what show. I mean, and even the World Championship. I mean, should we have just one undisputed title, or should we have 2 separate World Championships? That's kind of what I'm trying to discuss here. I mean, we had the little go around just now with me and Greg.
Okay, Ken. So you want, was it 1 title or 2 titles? Do you
Well,
want?
I mean, my honest opinion.
Yeah, let's hear yours, because I'm curious, because I really don't know too much about this. And I got
Honestly-
to turn my mic up.
Honestly, I think the draft would benefit from having separate world champions. I mean, obviously, it would create far more. It would create far more.
More money.
It would create far more opportunities for guys that really haven't gotten a fair shake. I mean, you could finally see guys like Ziggler and Cesaro, and even Sheamus and Del Rio getting more world championship opportunities, make him seem more credible threats to whoever's holding the world title on that brand. Now, I mean, maybe we could see Dean Ambrose on Raw, maybe a Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns on SmackDown. I mean, that could very well work.
SmackDown's on Tuesdays, right?
Yeah, SmackDown will be on Tuesdays,
Will
starting
be.
in July. I mean, and again, of course,
So
you have
next
the
week? So next week, the 5th is on a Tuesday.
Well, no, I'm talking like mid-July.
Oh,
They're
mid-July.
starting. The
Okay.
draft is going to be mid-July.
Okay.
Right. That's going to be that's when the first live SmackDown is going to be airing on Tuesdays. Now, as for the secondary titles, I mean, it's pretty simple. You could really have either the U.S. or Intercontinental title on Raw or SmackDown. It's really at this point, it doesn't really matter. Both are essential stepping stones to World Championship feud. So, I mean, I could really see either title on either brand. I mean, that doesn't really
Okay.
matter.
Ken, I got a bunch of questions for you.
Oh, shoot.
All right. Is one like a major league and minor leagues type of thing, or are they both somewhat equal?
Well, the point of this is going to be trying to build, since they're going to be having SmackDown going live. So that means SmackDown going live means it eliminates spoilers, which you could catch on any dirt sheet website.
I like that.
I mean, it essentially it makes SmackDown just as interesting and captivating as Raw, because it's going to be live, which means what you see is what you get. What's going on right then and there is what's happening. So they're trying to put SmackDown on the same level as Monday Night Raw, as they should. Okay, you shouldn't just have SmackDown just as being considered the B show, because the problem is in the past that's how it's been looked at, because of the fact that it's taped, the fact that it has seemingly lesser superstars on there, yet it put on more quality programming with its matches, with its programs, with its feuds. Ultimately, SmackDown has always stood out as the better quality program, while Raw has remained the flagship simply because it's on cable, simply because it's live. Now you're putting the two on a fair, equal playing field here, having them both be live, having them be back-to-back nights.
I like it.
I like it too. I think it's going to be interesting. I think
It's also more money. And
it's more
the
money.
WWE
It's more
needs
money
some
for WWE,
serious
more money
cash.
for Vince McMahon, and I think it'll create a much better dynamic, a much better dichotomy between Raw and SmackDown.
I have a question, if I may. Have Vince and Stephanie explained to the press why they are doing it this way?
You might kind of.
It's all right. Have they? Go ahead. I don't remember the question.
Oh. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious, has Stephanie or Vince explained to the press or been in any interviews as to why they're proceeding this way?
Essentially, the public answer they've given is that they want to make things fun for WWE again. They want to make things fun for the WWE universe, is what the public answer they've given. Personally, like I said, I mean, I think Nick summed it up best. They're just doing this to boost ratings, to make more money, to draw in more people.
Shing.
Exactly. Let's face facts. Money opens doors. Money makes the world go round. Is ultimately what the answer here is. They're looking for higher ratings, and they're looking for more talent. They're looking for more merchandising opportunities. They're looking for more opportunities to advertise both Raw and SmackDown as critical shows, as critical on-air components of WWE programming. I mean, it creates more opportunities for advertising. It creates more opportunities for superstars, which, like I said, leads to more merchandising opportunities, which leads to more money.
Which leads to more shows. Which leads to more better
shows.
Better WrestleMania.
Of course, that means you're going to be having separate brand pay-per-views. They're planning on even having 2 pay-per-views a month.
Oh, look at that.
Separate pay-per-views.
I like it.
It's true. I mean, if you're either
question. I have other questions, Ken.
Okay.
This draft thing, is this going to work like the NFL draft, where you literally just pick people for your side?
Essentially, yeah. It's basically just going to be
So like whoever gets how do you determine picks?
Well,
Like,
essentially, I guess it's just going to be. I guess it's just going to be like a flip of a coin. Whoever wins the coin toss or whatever picks first, whether it's for Raw or for SmackDown. Essentially, it's going to go back and forth. Typically, how the draft usually works in WWE is that both Raw and SmackDown will pick 10 initial picks, 10, maybe possibly 15 picks for on the show, and then throughout the week, there'll be a supplemental draft, essentially filling out the rest of both the Raw and SmackDown roster of names, And of course, you'll be having names brought up from NXT. You could be having you never know. We could have major signings. We could have a lot of, we have the Cruiserweight Classic going on the WWE Network. We could see a lot of those names signed. So it's really going to be interesting to see who ends up where and just how they're going to go about filling out the rosters and how the championships are going to factor into what goes on each brand.
All right, Ken. That's the only questions I have. I'm all set over here.
Julian, are there any
any
other
questions?
questions you would have for what's going on with the?
Is this the first time that they're doing a draft?
Well, no. The WWE Draft has happened before. Initially
When? Yeah.
I mean, it started all the way back in 2000, in 2001, 2002.
Ooh,
like
ancient.
when Ric Flair became a co-owner of WWE along with Vince McMahon. Ric Flair would run Raw, Vince would run SmackDown, and they had a draft right there, drafting 10 superstars for both Raw and SmackDown, filling the rest of the rosters. Now, of course, this would go on throughout the years. I mean, they had a draft in 2004, and really we had various ways the draft could be done. Essentially, maybe each side would draft 5 superstars via random lottery. So essentially, you never knew who you're going to get. The fans never knew until that very moment who would end up being on what brand. Then you had a competitive draft where Raw and SmackDown, and even at the time ECW, would have matches where whoever won would get a draft pick for their respective brand. So, I mean, this is really kind of going back all the way to the first initial draft that took place in 2002, which I think is fine. Okay, go back to the roots, which I think works out well here. Just have 10 picks for Raw, 10 picks for SmackDown, and then just have a supplemental draft to fill out both rosters, which I think will work out for the best.
All right, Ken. I like it.
I like it too. I'm really looking forward to it. A couple of weeks. We'll keep everyone here at the Wrestling Connection up to date on all the updates concerning the WWE Draft coming up in July. Now, we have reached the end of episode 122 of the Wrestling Connection. If you want to keep updated with us, if you want to follow us, check us out on our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Wrestling Connection. Check out our Twitter handle at WKNection with Ken Hill and the WK Krew. You can also follow us on our official YouTube channel, The Wrestling Connection, where you catch all of our past and present episodes, including our recent coverage of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And of course, you can check out our official website, thewrestlingconnection.com, where you can check out all sorts of goodies and behind-the-scenes photos and videos of myself and, of course, the WK Krew. And above all else, if you have any thoughts or comments on the show, you can email us at wrestlingconnection@gmail.com. So like I said, folks, we've got an interesting July in store. Like I said, we got WWE Battleground. We've got the historic WWE Draft coming up in a couple of weeks. It's going to be an exciting July. Looking forward to it. Just like to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. Shout outs to my buddies Zach and Julian, to Brian, to everyone out there. Have a happy and safe 4th. Enjoy the fireworks. I know I will. I know everyone here will. So in the meantime, folks, remember, be connected, get connected, stay connected. Have a happy 4th, everybody.
Many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be.
Someday we'll find it, the Wrestling Connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.